All right. It is the hour of 7:30, and I'd like to call this Borough of Mechanicsburg Council meeting to order for January 19th, 2021. And so at this point, we'll have the pledge to the flag followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the
United States
of
of
the United
America
States of
and
America
to the republic
and
for
to
which
the
it
republic
stands,
for which it
one
stands,
nation,
one nation,
God,
under God, indivisible,
and justice
with liberty
for all.
and justice for all.
Moment of silence, please. Thank you very much. Mrs. Martin, roll call, please.
President Weber,
Here.
Vice President Miller,
Here.
Councilwoman Egerton,
Here.
Councilman Anthony,
Here.
Councilman Bucher,
Here.
Councilman Pellman,
Here,
Councilman Whitcomb,
here,
Mayor Ritter.
He's muted.
Okay, he's here.
Yeah.
Solicitor Cassidy,
Present.
Engineer Rogalski, here.
no, he's not.
Okay. Chief Myers,
Here.
Chief Neff,
Here.
EMC Wardle,
Here.
Manager Szarski,
Here,
Assistant Manager Boyer.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Are there any guests this evening?
None that's reached out to me, sir.
Yes,
All right, before we,
Whoop, hold on a second. We have,
Hi.
hi,
all right, can you hold just for a second, please? Hang
Yeah,
on,
me?
just,
You
hang
mean?
on, just for a second. All right, once again, before we have any guest or citizen comments, I need to review a couple of policy issues with everyone. The rules and procedures for a virtual meeting have been posted on the Borough website and also are available in the waiting room, I believe. But there are several items that we want to repeat so that those of you who are joining us in Zoom know how you can be accessed and etc. So the public microphones will be unmuted to make comments during the public comment sections of the meeting on an individual basis. This will be so that the comments can be clearly heard. You can use your raise the hand feature in the software and your microphone will be unmuted for you to make comment. Members of the public must state your name and address before proceeding with your comment. If the commenter would like to have their comments in the minutes unabridged, it must be submitted to the Borough office in writing. So with that being said, we'll go back to, do we have any guests?
Hi. Yes. Billy Hamilton?
Yes?
I don't have any comments. I'm just here listening.
Oh, okay.
And then I'm Ben Grill. I'm a scout. I'm just here to listen in on the
yeah.
Oh, okay,
meeting.
Ben. Nice to have you, Billy and Ben. Thanks for joining us. Any comments from any public? Hearing none, we'll move on to correspondence. Mr. Szarski?
At this point in time, I don't have any correspondence other than what was in your packet as far as the hazardous mitigation plan, which is on there for action tonight.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
At this point, we need a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of January 5th, 2021. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Whitcomb. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Egerton. It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, and Mrs. Martin?
Unless I hear a negative response, I will record the vote as unanimous.
And the minutes are approved. All right, Borough liaisons. First, we'll start with Mr. Bucher and the Environmental Advisory Council.
Hello, everyone. So yeah, we had our meeting virtually, and we talked about the electronic recycling event for 2021, which we're hoping for April, a tentative date in April 24th. We got an update about the community garden and discussed the progress of the natural playground. Something else that came up was a possible community-wide cleanup once it gets a little warmer, obviously. But that's the end of my report.
Thank you very much. And you're up again, Mr. Bucher, for the Harb.
There was no meeting this month, so I have no report.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Bucher before we move on to the loan review? Hearing none, Mr. Miller, loan review.
Loan review has not met. We haven't had any loans to review, so there's no further report.
Thank you very much. Municipal Authority, Mr. Miller.
Sure. The municipal authority met last Monday, the 11th, because we moved up our meeting because of Martin Luther King Day yesterday. So we had our meeting on the second Monday of the month, and we will also have our next meeting on the second Monday of the month because of President's Day. So just note that schedule change. And the municipal authority reorganized again because we are, by our bylaws, we reorganize every year, unlike Borough Council reorganizes every 2 years. And we have the same slate of board members. So we did that. And we also initially, the first thing we did at the meeting was develop a comprehensive list of goals for the year. Everybody participated. The manager, the stormwater engineer, the sewer engineer, and all board members participated in that. And just some of the highlights of the goals, which you will see will probably align with some of the things Roger's talked about, such as developing a comprehensive infrastructure improvement plan in cooperation with Borough Council. Some formalized budget reporting for authority meetings and packets, improving the website to better communicate with the public and as a tool to educate the public, which is a part of our mission and the reason why we were created. Storm drain maintenance plan for small projects, and getting some of our smaller, more manageable projects off the ground this year from our pollutant reduction plan was another item. And Greg mentioned some of those were Kozer Park and the Shepherdstown Swale project. The manager mentioned an overall systems survey, both stormwater and sanitary. And the municipal authority is also going to be working on looking at sewering, a contingency plan for sewering Simpson Street, because Simpson Street does not have public sewer. They're all on-lot sewage systems. And then in February, we're going to invite the Master Watershed Program to our meeting, and we'll have a very informative discussion, I'm sure, about our watersheds and municipal authorities' role in that. And those are the major ones. So we had a very good discussion. It was a long meeting, but I think that really set the agenda and set the tone for this year. So it's very good.
Excellent. Any questions for Councilman Miller before we move on? Thank you, Kyle. Good report. Let's see, Planning Commission, Mr. Pellman.
Well, the Planning Commission did not meet in December, and I hope they haven't met in January. I noticed on the agenda there was a date of January 15th mentioned, and I think that's a misprint. I'm hoping anyway. And but we do have a meeting scheduled, I believe, for the 25th.
Correct.
Roger, can you confirm that? Yeah.
Yes.
And so there's no report other than mentioning the next meeting date, the 25th.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Pellman? All right, moving on. Recreation Board, Mrs. Agerton.
All All right, we met last week to discuss a couple of different things. A reminder that the 100th anniversary of Soldiers and Sailors is coming up, and we're partnering with DMP for Community Day. There will be an email invitation going out to all of the groups so that we can kind of get on the same page. I think there was some confusion early on with DMP's communication about the date. So I asked Sarah to help set that up so that we can just at least get everyone on the same page and assign out tasks. We also are looking at the work at the pool getting done. I know, Roger, they were working on the cement. We're still out for cement until it's nice out. Yeah.
Yep.
And then we have some issues at the pool. Roger's on top of it. And we are trying to plan for the upcoming summer to figure out, how we can best get that pool open. There are some challenges, and I think that we're all taking those seriously and discussing and exploring options to make sure that we can have a successful summer. And also, if you go down towards the park, you'll see, I know it's not rec related, but school related, but it is looking really good down there. I took a drive. I'm impressed with all the work that's been put into the new stadium front. I think we'll be using all of that space nicely, and they've taken care of our parks. So that is where we're at right now. We also have given Roger our list of things that we would like to improve over the next couple of years to roll that into the borough's comprehensive plan for our parks. That is my report.
Very good. Any questions for Mrs. Agerton?
Sure. Could you share that list with the rest of us, Roger?
List of improvements?
Yeah, that would be great to see.
Yeah, I'll have to pull it together. I've got it in separate emails. I'll pull it together and get something out. I think, Sarah, you may have that. Okay.
I can
No.
send it to everyone. And Kyle, if there's something that you guys want on that, please let me know.
I just want to look at it first because maybe there's something on there that I already have in mind. So.
Yeah, there might be. And, Tanya is going to be doubling up on some of her grant writing efforts. There was some ideas that I had about inclusive parks. And she was, writing a grant for another area. And she certainly is going to be looking at Mechanicsburg for it. But please, any feedback you have, I want our parks to continue growing. And I think we just need to keep that vision going. It's tough, but we're lucky to have Tug as a great grant writer.
Question on the pool.
Mm-hmm.
Where do we stand with the repairs there and the sandblasting and the epoxy? Didn't we decide not to do that?
Well, no, the epoxy, we decided not to do the plastering.
We decided not to do it, but we were supposed
Right.
to get, weren't we supposed to get another?
Greg has it. It's out for bid. Yes.
Okay, it's out for bid.
He put it together. You approved it, I think, a meeting or two ago.
Correct.
To put it out for bid.
Yeah, it was a separate bid
Yeah.
because we had to do the concrete work first, and we were putting that out to bid. So I can't remember the return date for that.
Well, the pre-bids tomorrow.
Okay.
They're going to be, so the bids will probably be due this week, probably Friday. And that's what, actually I was going to cover that under mine too, but they've got everything out of the pool that they need to pull out. They put stone in, the pipes are replaced as to where they have to be. The new floor drains are put in. The 6 foot, 6.5 foot depth is going to be right in the middle, or right by it'd be the furthest north exit tube from the big slide. That's where the deep part's going to be. So we're still in good shape as far as all the clearances we need there. There's going to be some touch-up work on the aqua zippins when these guys get done. But they should, if it's going to depend on the weather, when they get back, they should start pouring. We haven't got the weather stop yet either, or the water stop. That's to be delivered here. So when the water stop gets delivered here, then it's soon going to be time to pour the concrete. And then the epoxy people will come in if we award the bid to whoever we award the bid to, and the epoxy people will come in and take care of the sandblasting and refinishing the inside of the pool.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is the Shade Tree Commission, Mr. Bucher.
Yeah, so as you guys know, we are still looking for members of the Shade Tree Commission. Roger, I had two different people I was in communication with about potentially sending you some information or sending them your way. I gave them your email because they seemed interested in joining the Shade Tree Commission. I just was wondering if you heard from them at all.
I got one.
Okay, cool. Excellent. Thanks.
Well, that's a good sign.
Yeah, and that's the end of my report then.
Volunteers are hard to find.
Yes.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Bucher? Hearing none. School board, I have no report. Until they start meeting live, it's going to be difficult for me to get things. So I have reached out to the president of the school board to send me information that's pertinent for the borough. And so we've got that set up until we start going back to live meetings, which I will gladly attend. So I have no report. Manager's report.
It's a little lengthy, but I'll try to be brief on some of this stuff. Speaking of the school board, though, I do have some signature stuff here that I need to meet with you, Gary, so that we can get stuff signed. One is the bond and the developers agreement for Northside Elementary School. So yeah, that's, and the other part of the school district is at the PC meeting on the 25th. I would like to try to go live with that because it's for the high school plan. I'd like to have that meet in the back in the council chambers. We can spread everybody out. Usually we get the engineer and a few representatives from the school district there, but there's only 7 on the planning commission. So I think we could go ahead and meet live and get that taken care of. Because the drawings, I mean, they're so huge, and somebody tried to do, I don't know what you guys are working on at home, but if I were to try to flip through a drawing here, it would never work with the camera and everything else. So
Understandable.
I think that's the way we're going to go with that. The comprehensive plan update. I've been on the phone back and forth with Carolyn Yeagle from EPD. She is still recovering from COVID. She got infected, plus they're working in and out of the office. So it's just been a tough time. She's out in the Pittsburgh area, so that's being an issue. The rail trail, the South Mountain Rail Trail Partnership, we had a meeting on Thursday of last week. There was a lot of things discussed. It was met with DCNR, and they discussed the process for the $50,000 grant that we were awarded. The problem with that grant is it's a matching grant, 100% matching. So if we want to spend $50,000, we have to have $50,000 in matching funds. So that was discussed. Right now, we have a grand total of what we can spend total is $37,000. So there's another meeting coming up. I just got an invite for that today. So the pool update, we already covered the pool. I mentioned a little bit in the last meeting about the brine system for the roads. Instead of putting down straight salt, we would use a liquid salt solution on that. We went out to Monroe Township and we met with the highway department out there. It was myself, CH, and Scott. They have a machine out there that will actually make 2,000 gallons of brine an hour. They will sell it to us at 23 cents a gallon. Instead of us buying a machine, we would all we would have to do is buy the spreader to put it on the truck and spread it on the streets. You use 50 gallons a mile, which is 2.26 pounds of salt per gallon, which is actually going to be a lot less than what we're using in salt right now. We use probably 55 tons of salt here in the last snowstorm. The nice thing about this is one truck can go out, spray the entire town up to 3 days before the snowstorm comes, as long as there's no rain, and it works very well. What they did up there was they went in front of all the township supervisors' houses, sprayed one lane, left the other lane bare, and said, okay, which one do you want us to do? And they ended up buying a salt brine machine. So, but we can buy off of them. Speaking of trucks, I'm going to be gathering up trucks for the meeting with the Public Works and Safety Committee. More bad news. Right now we have 2 trucks that will not pass inspection at the highway garage. The one we use for plowing, actually both of them get used for plowing. The one, and many of you saw the purple truck that drives around town with the Mechanicsburg symbol on the side. That one, they were surprised that it actually plowed because the frame is bad in the front, really bad, to the point that they were surprised if it held the plow. So I'm going to be gathering up some price quotes and stuff like that. I think there's some options. I'm going to talk to Golden Supply, who is Golden Equipment, who is actually looking at the hook lift with the leaf vac and a few other things. So I'm going to have a lot of information to give to the Public Works and Safety. And that is the end of my report.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments for the manager?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead, Mr. Pellman.
Yeah, Roger, I've spoken to the other members of the Public Works and Safety, and we would like to have a meeting. I mean, would that benefit you to do it sooner than later, like in February, or how do you feel about that?
Mid to late February, give me a chance to get some numbers together so we can look at real figures instead of speculation, because I got a few, but they're all over the board. I'd like to narrow something down so that we're all comparing apples instead of this guy can give us this guy can give us this, but they're not the same. So I think there's at least one pickup truck going to have to be purchased. Just a plain pickup truck, maybe with a lift bed on the back or something like that, and a snowplow on the front. But I think we got to look at another truck that's multi-purpose. One that we can use the same truck for many different things, including leaf and maybe some other things. So I want to get that all squared away before we sit down and have a meeting about it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
And Roger, just if we would have a snowstorm, are we okay for now? When are the trucks not usable?
It was one that was actually put in reserve. We kept it back this time. They did try to use it, but the transmission is shot on the truck, and the thing will only do like 5-10 miles an hour at the most. Now, when you're plowing, that's not bad, but it is just a plow truck, and it was the truck that Craig drove around all the time. So,
okay.
Yep.
Well, I'm checking whether to come now to just make sure we're okay.
I think we're going to be in good shape. We've got plenty. We've got the other big trucks. We've got 2 new trucks that came in. I was up, took pictures of everything. I'm starting to get all my stuff gathered together. So I'm sorry. There is one other thing that I didn't mention. Jeff Gardner, the BCO, has resigned his position effective January 13th. There is a gentleman that we're going to look to bring in. I've already been in touch with Approved Codes. They're going to continue to handle the building permits. I'm going to take care of, until we get someone else in the position, I'm going to put more hats on and handle street cuts and all the stuff that Jeff was doing. We are suspended on rental inspections until March 15th. I hope to have somebody in place before March 15th.
Okay, very good. Any other questions for the manager? Hearing none, we'll move on to the mayor's report. Mr. Mayor, he's muted, by the way.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he can get off mute.
Mr. Mayor?
He doesn't have, I don't think he has a microphone on his computer.
Okay.
All right.
Well, he can submit a report in writing and we'll all read it.
Okay. We'll make sure
I'm
it's in the
sure he's
minutes.
chuckling over that one right now.
We'll make sure it's in the minutes.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Chief of Police report.
No report, sir.
Thank you. Solicitor's report.
Nothing to report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Cassidy. Fire Chief report.
Good evening. A couple things that maybe I can clarify with you. The fire department's been very busy. So I guess all of you have already received my report that I threw out the other day. Probably the turning point with the fire department was we had a walkthrough of the station. Fire station number 2 is the prior Citizens Fire Station, so on the hill. So we had a civil engineer, a structural engineer, and Tom Ludwig. They did a walkthrough and really gave the building a real good examination. And the structural engineer gave us the green light to do anything that we wanted to do with the building. He said structurally, it's good. It would be recommended to go ahead and use the existing old building and go from there to match budget. The civil engineer also said that there was nothing that would be standing out that would be out of the ordinary. We might be challenged a little bit with the water retention, how we pick that up. So I know there's a lot of thoughts around with that. So the in-house committees, facilities committee, finance committees, they've all been doing a diligent work with it, but just an idea of what we were thinking about was from the prior building that was maybe 4 years ago planned for back at the highway garage. What we were able to do was cut down, because we reduced the fleet, how many vehicles within the past several years, and we got more efficient and effective with the limited number of trucks, even though there still is 7 in the fleet. So the other day we were sitting there planning, and we did a tabletop on it, and just even the layout of the building, the footprint, should I say, we went from, that was roughly, the presentation had about a 21,000 square foot building. We chopped down to, instead of 5 major bays, 4. And right there was a savings of 1,800 square feet. And if you go off of the recommendation that Ludwig gave us at $225 a square foot, so right there is $405,000 saving. So I'm not saying that that's etched in stone, but that's just some of the things that we've been looking at to be make this affordable without any increase. That's our goal, is to do it on our current budget. And I think that's very obtainable. And the committee, I guess the finance does as well. So problematically, the building that we're looking at, we're kind of starting with our own design build. And it seems like with the access onto Washington Street has a lot of value. The access onto Simpson has value. And so we're able to do just a nicer fit of the building onto that, just the way that the land's laid. So that's the good stuff. That's what I have to report to you with the fire department. Other than that, all is well. On another note, the firefighters are still awaiting the county for the COVID shots. So they requested last week for us just to give them a number of roughly how many would be able and willing to get shots. And so I don't know when that will happen. We haven't heard anything this week yet. So we passed on a number, and whenever that happens, that'll be great that we can protect our folks. And that's all I have. If you have anything else.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate the report. We also appreciate the fire company's due diligence on planning their new building, and we hope and trust that it'll all work out for everybody. Sounds like you guys are working hard as usual, and I, for one, am deeply appreciative of everything that you do for us. So thank you.
Okay,
Any
your
other comments?
Yeah, I was just going to say your leadership has been phenomenal through all of this, and we appreciate you so much. I know that we are so excited to get you under one roof. So whatever we can do to assist, just yell at us.
Well, I appreciate that compliment, but I believe there's about 60 active people that are really all together other than this guy, but thank you.
Yeah, but you know what? It's your attitude and your leadership that helps set the tone and the culture. And I think you guys have been phenomenal to work with. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to the EMC report. Mr. Wardle.
everyone. I did submit a written report to Roger this afternoon so that it had the most recent data, and I'm not sure if you've received it yet or not. I won't read through all of it tonight, but what I will tell you is the death numbers are concerning. 40% of the deaths from COVID-19 have occurred within the last month. The good news is that the number of cases is going down over the last probably 2.5, 3 weeks. And our hospitalizations, both statewide and in the county, are going down. Statewide, they were above 6,000. They're now at right around 4,600. And in the county, they're at 116 patients hospitalized, where 1 month ago we were at 158. As Gary just mentioned, the vaccine is available currently for phase 1A. The bad news for the fire department is today, coming in line with HHS recommendations, the department expanded, the Pennsylvania Department of Health expanded our phase 1A to include those 65 and older and those with high risk conditions. What that means for firefighters and first responders in 1B is that their place in line hasn't moved, but a number of people, 2.5 million people who were previously in phase 1C have now been moved to phase 1A. So we're looking at about 3.5 million people who are in phase 1A. So it is certainly going to take some time now to get through phase 1A, where previously the expectation was that we were almost through it. Other than that, we know that the supply of vaccine remains low, but we're working to get it out as quickly as possible to those who need it. And a good note, going off what Roger said, is luckily we've had one somewhat significant snowstorm, and otherwise things have been fairly quiet from a weather perspective this winter. So hopefully it stays that way. A chance for maybe a dusting in the morning, but other than that, things continue to look quiet. That's what I have.
Thank you. Any questions for Nate? Nate, I have one. Actually, it's more personal probably than some of the others here, but for those of us who are in the now 1A group that are 65 and older, we're all wondering where we go to get the shot because we can't find anything anywhere. We were on the state website. We made calls. We can't seem to, I know there's shortages in the vaccine, but any suggestions from your end on that?
Sure. There is a map on the state website, and my job actually changed within the state, and I am now working on all things vaccine as opposed to being the press secretary. But there is a map on the website that has all the locations statewide that have vaccine. In Cumberland County, your best bet is to go to, well, some of these aren't on yet, but they will be within the next day. We had over 12 million visits to the website today, and it crashed everything on the back end. Everything still worked for the public, but trying to make any edits was difficult. But the Wegmans in Mechanicsburg will have vaccine this week. I believe that Weiss in both Camp Hill and Mechanicsburg will both have vaccine this week. And then we're also bringing in Rite Aid. And I believe that there will be 1 or 2 Rite Aid locations in the county, in the Mechanicsburg area, that will also have vaccine this week. Outside of that, there are Holy Spirit has hospital, or Holy Spirit Hospital has vaccine, as does UPMC Frederickson Outpatient Center. And if you go on the website, and I can send the link out to everybody here while the meeting's still going on, there's a phone number or an email address, and also a website that you can go and find out any information you need to.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Nate,
And
I have a question then. So, being a healthcare provider, I got mine, but I know that some of my coworkers across the state, they have taken a letter to hospitals. Is that the same thing that first responders can do? Will they be able to get in line with their letter saying that for them to get vaccinated instead of waiting for a pharmacy to come to them?
Yes, the expectation probably shouldn't be that a pharmacy will come to them. They should go to either a hospital, a pharmacy, a federally qualified health center, and say, "Hi, I am a healthcare worker. I'm in phase 1A. Vaccinate me." And as long as they
Okay.
have a proof of, like a badge for their job or some type of proof of employment, they should be able to get vaccinated.
Awesome. Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions for Nate? All right, hearing none, we move on to the next portion of the meeting. Are there any additions to the agenda?
I have none, sir.
All right, hearing none, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. Would someone please entertain a motion to approve the agenda for this evening?
I'll make
I
that
will
mo-
make that motion.
All right, Mrs. Agerton made the motion. I presume, Mr. Whitcomb, you're seconding.
I'll second it, yes.
Thank you very much. There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Martin?
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the vote as unanimous.
And the agenda is approved. Mr. Szarski, you're on the docket.
The agenda items before council on January 1st of 2021. Discussion and possible action on resolution 1/2021 in honor of Lisa Coyne Esquire, service to the Mechanicsburg Borough.
Do I hear a motion?
I will make the motion.
Second.
All right, I think I heard Mr. Whitcomb first there. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Bucher. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Martin?
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the vote as unanimous.
And the motion carries. And we thank, of course, Lisa for her service to the borough. Next item, please.
Discussion and possible action on resolution 2/2021 on the county's hazardous mitigation plan. This is boilerplate. We do this every year. This keeps us available for funds as far as through FEMA and PEMA. So this is the typical resolution we pass every year.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
That was Mr. Bucher.
I'll second.
And Mr. Whitcomb seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Martin?
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the vote as unanimous.
And the motion carries. Next item, please.
Discussion and possible action, possible authorization to execute the Cumberland County grant agreement for the South Mountain Trail Rail Trail project.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Agerton. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Bucher. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Mrs. Martin?
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the vote as unanimous.
Thank you, and the motion carries. Next item, please.
Discussion and possible action to accept the 2020 real estate tax reconciliation with Barry Heckard and forward 98 bills in the amount of $65,414.38 to Cumberland County for collection.
Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Whitcomb. A second, please.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Agerton. Is there any discussion? Okay, one thing I'd like to ask, I know this actually goes with the next two items as well. Is that list available and is it public knowledge? Or
The
available to the
list
public?
was in the council packets for all of the items. There was
Okay.
a list
I
of
think
those
what President
people
Weber
in
is
the council
asking,
packet.
is it available to the public?
Is it available to the public?
Is it public?
That would be a question for your solicitor.
There you go.
He was waiting for that one.
I was waiting for that question. So it does become public information. And actually delinquent tax information is public information,
Yes.
subject to disclosure under the right to know law.
Very good. Thank you. That's all I had. Are there any other questions? Okay.
Yeah, I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Pellman.
How does that rank with previous years? Is it a lot more delinquent this year, or is it about the same?
There was a little bit more this year than in prior years, but not substantial,
Okay.
but there was a little bit more.
Okay, thank you. I was just curious in light of all the bad things going on in our economy that affected it much in the borough.
Good question.
It was.
Any other discussion? All right, we have a motion on the floor. Mrs. Martin?
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the vote as unanimous.
And the motion carries. Next item, please.
Discussion and possible action to accept the 2020 fire tax reconciliation with Barry Heckard and forward 98 bills in the amount of $9,821.97 to Cumberland County for collection.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
All right. Who made the motion here?
I think it was Scotty.
Thank you, Mr. Pellman. And Mr. Whitcomb, are you the second?
I'll second it.
Okay. It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Martin?
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the vote as unanimous.
And the motion carries. Next item, please.
Discussion and possible action to accept the 2020 per capita tax reconciliations with Barry Heckard and to forward 1,013 bills in the amount of $10,130.00 to Penn Credit for collection.
Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Whitcomb. And I need a second.
I'll second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Agerton. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Martin?
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the vote as unanimous.
And the motion carries. Mr. Szarski?
Discussion and possible action to engage a payroll service for 2021. This came about because of some of the changes that we've been experiencing with the COVID in the police department particularly, but as we've been moving through this, it's getting more and more time consuming on Glenda's part, plus the fact that we've been dealing with the authority stuff and a few of the other things and training new people. This is a service that I think we could have taken out of house and handled a lot more better and efficiently than what we're doing it in-house, and be a much more cost effective and time saving.
All right. Before we get into discussion, do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
All right. I think somebody spoke up before you, but we'll make Mr. Whitcomb given the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. All right. Now, is there any discussion from council regarding Mr. Szarski's comments and this process?
We decided who to go with?
I'm sorry, John. Can you repeat, please?
Have we decided who to go with?
2 price quotes were placed in your packet for your consideration.
Yeah, I read those. Are we picking or are you picking?
I would assume that you would select the service.
So from what I read, it looked like that PaySmart was the cheaper one.
Paychecks is the lower of the 2.
Paychecks.
It is a professional service, so it's not required to be bid.
Not low.
So then the motion should include Paycheck as the payroll service. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, Mike.
Is there any way do you have like a breakdown of like, you mentioned that there's cost savings in this? Do you have like a comparison between what
It's mostly time savings. It's taking Glenda till we get through all the paychecks or all the pay stubs, the timesheets and everything else, and get everything clarified. She's spending 3/4 of a day to a day and a half on payroll. This amount of employees and that amount of checks is it's just not time consuming for us in here anymore. With the amount of stuff that we've got going on and with the authority stuff that's taking off, it's just getting to the point where these guys need to learn to do their paychecks or their pay stubs and get them into us the correct way. There's just too much stuff coming that we need to get it out of house. This is something I would like to have done 4 years ago. But with the changes that came down through with the COVID, especially on the police side with Act 17, because there's a special tax-free time off whenever they're off for COVID. And our system is just having a lot of trouble with it. So now seems to be the best time to get this and make it go, take it out of house. Everybody else is doing it. They're much more efficient at it than what we are. And it just makes sense at this point in time to go outhouse with it.
Joe, as a businessman, I will tell you that the very first thing I did when I started my company was hire a payroll company. There's a lot of nuances to payroll that, you know, Glenda's professionalism has been able to hold us together for now, but it just makes a lot of sense for $168 every 2 weeks to have somebody do it who knows what they're doing and can hold the liability of doing it when something goes wrong. It's a great call, in my opinion.
Yeah. And with the changes that came through because of COVID and all the other stuff that it takes up a lot of her time to keep up with all the changes and make sure that everything's done correctly. So it's been time.
And we're cool with it with regard to the budget?
Yes.
I think we can make that work, yes.
Very good. That's what I wanted to hear. All right. We have a motion and a proper second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Martin.
Unless I hear a negative response, I will record the vote as unanimous.
Hearing none, the motion carries. And I trust the staff will make the proper move to get that taken care of.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Next item.
Discussion of possible action to replace the HVAC at the highway garage.
We need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Whitcomb. Is there a second?
I'll second.
That was Mr. Pellman, I believe.
Yes.
I think, yeah, I think we have to clarify the motion and what it's for. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And who it's being awarded to?
Yeah, there was two options on there, and I think we do need to do that. Did everyone read the memo that I included with the situation we have down there? They're running a dangerous situation, and I was really disappointed when I found out what they were doing down there to create heat in the crew room.
I think we're all pretty much aware of that.
Yeah.
So I guess Kyle's question is, do we
I would
narrow it down?
Yeah, I would prefer to go with the Zimmerman quote for both of them. I know it's a little bit more, but Zimmerman has been very responsive. They handle most of our plumbing stuff, and they get somebody here relatively quickly. The same way with it used to be Wrightstones, now it's J.R. Ruth handles our electrical issues. Ernie's crew has done a lot of the work here in the borough office, and they've always treated us pretty well as far as maintenance and stuff like that goes. I would prefer to be this one. I would ask to be awarded to Zimmerman.
Roger, were the quotes comparable? Were they for the same?
They were for the same BTUs. Yes.
They were for the same specs.
Yes. It was a split unit system that we were looking at for the break room, which would have HVAC and heat. And now the other ones didn't include and we asked them to. We asked them to include the replacement of the gas unit that's in the far room. But there was two other ones that didn't include it. Ernie's the only one that included it with his bid.
Well, that could be the difference in the cost then.
Are you going with the 15,000 or the 12,000 BTU?
The 12,000 is going to be fine. That should be enough for just that room and the kitchen that they have down there.
That should be more sufficient.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like the idea of patronizing a place in our municipality too. Doesn't hurt.
Keeps all of our HVAC under one roof, which I think is wise. All right, so that we need to amend the motion to include the Zimmerman bid, I believe.
For the 12,000 BTU unit.
Yes, so Rodney, will you amend your motion to include that, please?
I will.
All right, and Mr. Pellman, do you second?
Yes, I second the
Okay.
modified
It's properly
motion.
moved and seconded. And the motion will read to include the Zimmerman quote for the 12,000 BTU system.
Yep.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Martin?
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the vote as unanimous.
And the motion carries. Thank you very much. Next item, please.
Discussion of possible action to authorize the signing of a letter of engagement for Caldwell and Kearns with Steve Minor, Esquire, for bankruptcy-related legal services.
Do
So
I
moved.
hear a motion for that?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Anthony. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Agerton. It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Mrs. Martin?
Unless I hear a negative response, I will record the vote as unanimous.
And the motion carries. All right, at this point, we come to the second time in our agenda where citizens have the opportunity for comment. Are there any comments from any of the guest citizens tonight? If so, just hit your raise your hand button. I'm not seeing any.
Yeah.
All right, so we will move on. Is there any other business? We'll start with Mrs. Martin.
No, sir.
Glenda?
No, thank you.
Roger?
I'm gonna, thoughts and prayers are with Engineer Rogalski. He got deployed today. I don't know if it was to our capital or the capital in DC. He's hoping to be back Thursday, so I wish him a safe trip down and back, very uneventful.
I would agree. Anything else, Roger?
No, that's everything I have.
All right, Chief Neff?
I have nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Myers?
I have nothing, sir.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mayor, I see you're not muted anymore. But you're not talking.
But you can't do your report now.
All right, we'll skip that and go to our council people. Mrs. Agerton?
I don't have anything further other than to just remember our downtown businesses. They are doing good social distancing practices. And Delicios is now moved up to the #1 list. And there's some good eats down there. So encourage everyone to frequent these places. And I've seen Glitz has been sold out of soap and smell goods. So I'm proud of the business that's being driven down to our downtown. It's looking awesome.
Thank you. Mr. Anthony?
Nothing, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bucher?
This is more of a request, maybe to direct at Roger. Since we're like in this more virtual format, is there any possible way to make sure that our PDF files that are sent to us are like able to be marked up on like our minutes? So like tonight's minutes, I can mark up on them digitally, but like our minutes from our previous meeting are not able to be done because they're like a scan of like a copy, I guess, if that makes sense. I was just wondering if there's any possible way to, like, instead of having a scan of a copy, have it be all the same format as the minutes.
Like print a PDF versus print it and then scan it.
Yes.
That's how they're all created anyway.
Well, if you look at the minutes that we have that we passed from the last meeting, that it's a scan. Like, and
that's
it's
because
printed.
that's because it has all the attachments on it. Yes. It is.
Is there any way we can get that into one document so it can be marked up digitally?
I can print a PDF, but I can't put like Ms. Yerrick's report on it. Is that okay?
Gotcha. Yeah, that'd be great. I just find it I just find it easier to mark it up on the computer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I can send you that in your packets along with it.
Awesome. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate that. Mr. Miller?
I just want to echo Councilwoman Agerton's remarks about the downtown. And it's also, I want to add to that, it's also nice to see the partnership between downtown business and a future business that's going to be at Legacy Park between the butcher and the brewery, which is really encouraging and very nice to see that our downtown businesses are working together like that, even outside of the downtown, like the main street downtown. My other comment, I just want to thank, I saw the manager, I requested at the last meeting that the YouTube videos get put up, and he did follow through with that, and the meetings are posted to YouTube now. Just ask that we continue doing that on a regular basis, and then once they are posted, to share them on Facebook so that people can know that they've been posted. The other thing I'd like to see, I saw that the website was also updated. I asked for that with the minutes. And I would like the meetings, I think we should be putting them out on our Facebook page. When we have a borough council meeting, we should be advertising what our council meeting date is and what the agenda is on our Facebook page. I think we used to do that, but we've sort of dropped off and we haven't been doing that. So just.
That should be easy enough, right, Roger?
Yeah, we can do that. It's something that slipped through the cracks with everybody working in separate, I mean, working from home and working the rotating shift that we've been working in here. So
Fine.
it's just something that slipped through the cracks.
Okay. Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate it.
I just think with, meeting virtually, I mean, even if we, just in general, it should be something that we put on our checklist to do, as we prepare for each meeting. And that's all that I have for now.
Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Pellman?
Nothing here.
Thank you. Mr. Whitcomb?
Nothing, sir.
Thank you very much. Did I miss anyone? Because when I'm looking around on my screen, sometimes I miss someone. I think we got everyone. I would just like to ditto the comments that Mrs. Agerton and Mr. Miller made with regard to our businesses. These new eateries that are moving into the downtown are just incredible. Delicia is wonderful. The crepe place, I took my family there, and it's an amazing experience. If you haven't done it, please get the word out. It is unbelievable. The same with Smoke and Pickles, and of course the new brewery going up. I guess we have the brewer, the baker, the
pancake
butcher, and
maker.
now all we need is a candlestick maker, and I think the soap
You
shop
have that
is pretty
list.
close to that. So I think we've got all the things covered, including a brewery. So that's really good news for the borough, and I think it's starting to catch on to some people, and it's going to bring more people to town. And one of the things that I learned when I was liaison to Downtown Partnership years ago was that oftentimes to revitalize a community business model, that fine restaurants and the types of places that we're putting in do attract people, and that attracts more businesses, and that's what we're hoping for. So I would ditto all of those comments as well. I've tried to go to all of them so far, and I have not been disappointed at all. They're unbelievable.
Yes, and thank you to Rebecca for all of her hard work on
Oh yeah, I see she's on there. Hi,
all
Rebecca.
those things. She's on here. And I want to add, just to add to that, President Weber, that in doing so, in going downtown and walking to the businesses like Delicia and the Butcher, it is really great to see, even in the pandemic, businesses opening here in Mechanicsburg, and not only opening and surviving, but they seem to be doing really well. And also the foot traffic downtown is it's really encouraging to see. And I said this at the authority meeting, but if it's something that we can do during a pandemic, I'm really excited to see what we can do when this is all over.
I agree.
I'm just going to chime in for a second. I'm sorry, I'm just going to chime in for a second, Sarah.
Go ahead, John.
When I stopped into the crepe place and met the owner there, he did talk about, and he acknowledged all the support that our borough is giving him. He almost broke into tears talking about how he was shut down on the very Saturday that he was supposed to open. And the support that the borough gave him and the people gave him was overwhelming to him. So he understands what it's about being here. And I think you're right. Obviously, we need to continue to do that as we roll through the winter and into the spring. Sorry, Sarah.
No, in fact, John, I was going to say that about Delicios when I was talking to them. The praise that they had for everyone that helped them get started. I know it took them longer, but that is the feedback that I am getting, is that, working with our borough office has been a good experience. And the icing on the cake is seeing all of the people and all the families walking through Mechanicsburg. It makes my heart happy to know that during a pandemic we're doing well. And Rebecca deserves so much credit for that. So thank you to everyone, and thank you to Roger for working with all these new businesses.
Okay, well, team, keep up the good work, and a lot of these businesses that are opening, these people are salt of the earth, wonderful people. You got to go in and talk to them like John did and get to know them. They're very interesting folks and their heart and soul are into these businesses, and I'm sure they're going to succeed. Mr. Cassidy, I forgot you. I didn't really forget you, but you didn't speak up when I asked if I forgot anyone.
That's quite all right, Mr. President. I have nothing else to add.
All right. Thank you very much. Unless I hear anything else, there will be no further comments or business. Meeting is adjourned.